pretty much. I just ask thought-provoking questions, and you are to go by Kiwi.
Yeah, Kiwi, Guardian, whichever's fine.
Okay, Kiwi, and I'm Frog. Welcome to Froglosophy.
Thank you.
So, what drives you as a human being?
Um, Drives me as a human being. Yes, that's a very general question. Ah, Career-wise, my drive is I have always loved working with people. Even I find being around people to be quite draining sometimes, but I love um, being with there for those intimate and personal moments, especially regarding people's health. I love working with them to achieve a health goal that they love to set up. Sorry, background is I am a healthcare worker and I am studying to be a registered nurse right now. So I'm, so I'm quite often involved with patients and especially, you know, don't really get involved with people who are well. They're mostly people who are sick, and yeah, being able to work with them towards a health outcome that's beneficial to them is something that they really want to strive for. Excuse me. And even the ones who have lost motivation, just helping them find their motivation to get better. And yeah, it's a really rewarding experience, and I really love that. And that's my drive career wise towards moving forward with that.
Nice. I mean, that's really admirable. Congratulations, heading towards your goals, definitely, and achieving them as well.
Oh, thanks.
That's
Yeah.
that yeah, that's definitely really really amazing.
Oh.
It's so when you say like help motivate people, what would be like an example of that to get to their
Ah.
health?
So as um yeah, of course, there are many different facets to health. Quite often, what we see in day to day is a very physical health. How fit you are, how your body looks, and when you get injured, is it a cut, a bruise, things like that. But a lot of the um, healing, the getting better, is usually starts with people's mental health. And if somebody's lost the motivation to want to improve, want to get better, that development, you can actually see physical results in that people don't, they recover slower, or some people don't recover at all if they just don't have the motivation to push themselves towards recovery. So a big place to start, obviously there are exceptions to this where, if they actually if it's a life-threatening illness, of course you've got to treat what you can. You treat what you can, but there are other things towards recovery that the patient themselves need to keep themselves motivated for. Example of that would be I had a patient a few weeks back who uh, was having a progressive limp, and it was getting worse and worse because they had done a leg and ankle injury, and it had healed very poorly because they weren't using enough. They were very much leaning on their other leg to try and compensate for the pain, and because of it, they started getting a limp. Partly because the injured leg had healed very stiffly, so the joints weren't fully functioning anymore. But then the other leg was also compensating for a whole body's worth of weight, and that was starting to get injured, and you're seeing a limp in both legs. But they didn't want to improve, they didn't want to get better, they didn't want anything to change about it, even though their health was declining because of it. They were losing their job as a forestry worker. They were um, they were just really, really struggling. And it's a very classic case of um, patients really do need to be motivated to help themselves, because we can only do so much as the workers to help them out. We're kind of just there to guide them along the process, give them encouragement, and give them the tools to be able to help themselves.
Yeah, no, definitely, I agree with that. I mean, is that a common or uncommon thing that happens, you
Um,
think?
it's more common. Uh,
Okay.
Not with everyone, definitely not everyone.
Yeah.
But it's it is a little bit of human nature to be a bit lazy about our recovery. We've all been there, myself included, where
Yeah,
we just things are looking good right now. We don't need to do any more other than that. For example, you might have a sore throat and you start taking some stuff for it, and then suddenly the sore throat feels better, and you think, no, I don't need to take anything more for it. And you stop taking it, and a few days later it comes back, and just keep going through that cycle. So a lot of people, we're all human. We tend to get a bit lazy about it. So yeah, it is
yeah.
quite common.
Okay. That yeah, I mean that makes a lot of sense because I've said before, I've talked to some people about morality just in humans in general, that how complicated it is to necessarily sit here and have a moral compass that points to good and points to bad and points to right and points to wrong, but understand also that everyone's moral compass is a bit different than the person next to them, and how sometimes that ends up, you have those people out there that we see them, sometimes we are that person during that time, hopefully not, but it's, you have a bad reaction to something, you go off on someone for no reason, or you punch a retail worker in the face, or scream because you got told to put a mask on or something. Like what is, and even those people who aren't like that, but the people who are just, they feel really bad about themselves, or they know that something might be wrong with something,
Yeah, yeah,
but they don't
absolutely.
have the motivation and they don't have the knowledge, I think, sometimes to know that there is an
Absolutely.
actual thing to help cure it. And yeah, if it's something that's going to take longer than a couple days or like a week at most, we tend to lose motivation on wanting to continue doing it, continue doing the work and the effort. But just like trying to make yourself a better person, that that's continual work, that's everyday work.
Oh, for
And I
sure.
mean
Yeah.
that could also be related to the fact that you said you did yoga for a little bit and you don't continue to do it every day because you started to see results, but if you'd have continued you would have seen better results.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you touched on a very important point too, aside from motivation, and that's we actually have a word for not being able to, not knowing how to recognize when you're ill, and that's health literacy. People who aren't able to recognize when they're sick or what resources they can turn to be able to help themselves and things like that. It's a huge barrier towards people getting better. So yeah, that's another huge one alongside motivation. Um, yeah, no, definitely. So yeah, no, you're absolutely on the money there.
Do you think that that could be applied to more than just like physical injuries?
Oh, absolutely. There's everybody will have a different take on this. My take is that physical health is absolutely important, but mental health covers emotional health as well. It's so important. Without that, you're if you have a very bad mental health, you're not going to want to get better. You're not going to care about the physical injuries. You're not. There's a huge drive. You need the drive to get better before you can get better, and that's huge. And spiritual health is another big one. So it works alongside mental health for those, and we're not just talking about religious beliefs either. It's not religion; it's like a spirituality thing. People who have certain like morals and beliefs and things like that, that comes into play. Religion obviously does come into play into this, and for some people that's a very powerful drive. And especially, I've worked with a lot of people who are palliative, who are going to die, and a lot of people find great comfort in their spirituality during those times, and it's a very sobering moment as somebody with them at the time, not a family member, but somebody looking in at that small window that's the end of their life. And yeah, it's sobering to see that this person is at peace because of a very strong belief. And I'm not there to tell them it's right or wrong because it's very important to them at the time, and that's all that matters.
I mean, that's a really good way of putting it, but what do you mean by sobering to see?
Um, it's not. We work with people to help them get better. And that's a very general blanket statement. That's the job of a nurse, a doctor, any healthcare worker. Your job's there to maintain and improve a person's health, but some people don't improve. Some people get very sicker and sicker and they die. And it's at that moment you kind of realize, have you ever been do you drink, sorry?
I have, yes.
Yeah. Have you ever been so drunk and then you look in the mirror and you go, wow, man, I'm drunk?
Yes.
Yeah. It's a very strange feeling. But that is quite literally a sobering feeling to realize, man, I'm drunk. You look in the mirror, you can see yourself and go, whoa, what's happened? And that's kind of not obviously not the same feeling as that, but it's the same sort of motion in your head where you're going, wow, this is it. This is why we do our job. This is an important part of our job because we're here when people live, we're here with them when they get better, but we're also here when people don't get better. We're here when people pass away, and we're here to help not only them but the family members that they're leaving behind to see sense in what's going on and help them move on. And that's it's I can't put it into words how important that moment is. It's very, very powerful. And no matter what kind of day you've had, whether you had a good one, a bad one, a frustrating one, a sad one, at that moment when somebody passes is sobering. It brings you back to reality of this is here, this is now, and this is why we do our job.
So, kind of like a third person watching what's going on around, but you are both, like you're the one watching and you're part of.
You have to be. When
Yeah.
if you get too involved, you'll lose yourself in the job. It's but you've still got to maintain that empathy with people.
Yeah.
You've got to be involved without being too involved, and
Man, that's got to be tough.
it's a very fine line. And I would lie if I said that I haven't crossed the line both ways. I've been too emotional, and I have also put too much distance between me and the patient that I might have seemed cold. But I've it's been years now, and I've recognised how to deal with it. And there's that fine line. You eventually find it, and you just walk it.
Yeah, I mean, does anyone teach you that in, when you're going to school for all of that and getting your certifications? Does anyone teach you where that fine line is?
They tell you about it, but it's something you
Yeah.
can't learn until you experience it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I definitely think there's a lot of things just in life in general that you can't really learn until you go through it, and then you come out of it and you can look back and say, okay, this is what I could have done and this is what could have been different, but I got to move forward, and next time I know how to maneuver it a little better.
yeah, absolutely.
Man, that's that's intense.
That's why we do what we do.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
definitely. And thank you. Absolutely. I'm sure there's plenty of proud people near where you are who are very thankful that you do what you do, and for all the people
Um,
out there who also do that and more. It's definitely really important to have human beings in the world who have that drive to want to just help other human beings and do it in a medical way, in a way that you can, you know, try to help that person heal from something so that they don't have to die. So, like, you're not just helping people get better, you're trying to help humanity as a whole continue to live on, even if it's only temporarily.
well, we're all only here for a short time, relative
Yeah,
terms.
I mean,
So
that's,
yeah,
yes.
we're just here to give
But
people a little more time. That's all.
I mean, and that's what matters the most, though, in our, I think, in all of our heads is, what are we going to do with that time and how are we going to spend it? And having people who care enough to have also the bravery and courage to go and do that, because that sounds like a very mentally taxing environment.
It is. It's also the most important thing that I could say because I'm assuming this is going to be said to quite a few people. Um,
Yes.
Yeah, so most important thing to anybody listening is that there is, I know there's a large majority of you out there who feel the same way I do, who love to help people, but the most important thing is to know your limits. If you know you can't do something that it's going to be too much on you, don't, because you cannot look after other people until you look after yourself. Make sure you know your limits before you move forward, and make sure that you can look after yourself before you can look after other people. It's as simple as that. Don't feel bad for it. Don't feel bad for being selfish about it. You have to be selfish about it, because otherwise you can't help anybody else. That's that's it.
I mean, absolutely. That's the nail on the head right there. I mean, and I feel like often people throw around a lot of the phrases of like, you can't help someone before you help yourself, and that's for some people that's not enough explanation. It's and you did a good job pretty much explaining it. It's if you can't take care of yourself, you cannot help another person. If you're drowning, and they teach you this when you go to be a lifeguard, don't swim up to the person and drag them to the bank, because they're just going to drown you if they're already drowning, you know so you have to help them kind of from afar and get them to kind of help themselves.
Exactly.
That like you were saying before, with the motivation, you got to motivate the person that they can get better and be okay. They just have to see it. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
and it's definitely really important to also know your limits, and set your boundaries when you figure out your limits. Understand that this is as far as I can go, and I cannot go past this right now, because
Absolutely.
often we bite off more than we can chew.
We all do. It's
Yeah.
it's not something you can learn or have somebody tell you. You just have to experience it yourself and then realize within yourself that's as far as I can go.
Yeah, I mean, how do you learn to ride a bike? How do you learn to walk? You have to fall in order to learn what it feels like to fall, to prevent yourself from falling.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's a really good way of putting that. I really enjoyed this talk. If you've got anything you want to ask me, feel free.
Yeah. Well, what do you do with in your line of work? Right.
I wouldn't say I necessarily have a specific line of work. I've often just traveled and had odd jobs here and there, or worked in retail or fast food or hospitality and tourism.
Yeah.
I've
Bit of everywhere.
done maintenance work. Yeah, I've done a lot of different types of work,
Sounds awesome.
and it has been, it's helped with experience, but it's also helped me kind of understand society from a point of view that is the people who live paycheck to paycheck, because that's been also my entire life. Unfortunately, that's where I've been, but I've made it this far. I always know I'm going to be okay, and that I'll land on my feet. No matter how bad it gets, I will come out of that and be okay by the end of it. I've got supporting people nowadays who are also helpful towards me, and I'm striving to do better so that I don't have to be living paycheck to paycheck.
That's
But
awesome. Yeah.
I mean, I do that, and I travel across America working those jobs that are pretty much seasonal, and I enjoy where I'm at. I'm yes, I'm in hospitality tourism basically, and I'm always in an area that has a bunch of tourists, but the tourists are there to see cool stuff. So I don't have the money to go see cool stuff, but if I can go work there to see the cool stuff, then I'll go do that.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. Absolutely.
Yeah, I've been snowboarding for free countless times. I've gone hiking on some really tall mountains and beautiful mountains. I've picked blueberries at the top of a mountain in Alaska. I've gone rafting through a canyon in Alaska and saw the northern lights out while I was rafting down the river. I've gone camping in Colorado and Alaska. I've gone, which those are like my two favorite places. I've done a lot in those two areas. They're really beautiful. I like being out in the wild. I like animals. I like the sky. I like trees. I like grass. I like plants. Nature.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
So
Sounds like you found your drive yourself.
To a point. I mean, I know what my drive is, which is why I ask people this question. Because one day when I was like 19 or 20, I had sat and thought about it, but didn't give it much thought until about the age of 27, where I really tried to figure out why I am the way I am. And I just realized that I don't think anyone ever, I've never heard anyone ask that question. I've never heard anyone answer that question. No one's ever asked me that question. And I started asking people and realized that almost everyone's answer is different, is just consistently different to each individual, no matter where they come from. Even if they came from the same area, two people have the different answers, and I personally, for me, it's just it's basic curiosity. I'm curious to see where I'm gonna be, what I'm gonna accomplish by the time I'm dead, what I witness, and what I just pretty much just curious to see what I experience overall throughout the entirety of my life, whether I die by accident or die from old age or whatever it is that happens. But I'm not going to do it because when I was younger, I attempted, and quite a couple times to no avail. Fortunately, to nowadays, because I am very proud and happy of where I'm at now. And it's pretty much just, if that didn't happen and that wasn't meant to happen, then now I'm curious to see what is meant to happen for me. No matter how bad it is, I'm still grateful for it. No matter how great it is, I still enjoy it as much as I can. I try to enjoy all of it as much as I can. And because it's all I have is what I experience.
Yeah. Well, it's quite an old saying that when one door closes, another opens, and seize every opportunity. And it sounds like you're quite literally living by that philosophy, which is amazing to hear. It's really good. You sound very motivated towards just wanting to experience life and just building on those experiences. And a lot of people don't have that drive, and it's really, really good to see that there's people out there living it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, I wanted to be an explorer, and then I got kind of upset when I realized that there were maps of everything, and humans have kind of been everywhere. So, what else could I explore except the stuff now that we've explored, and I guess only like a handful of humans really care about. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
or even know it exists. If only 100 people know it exists, that's still a pretty good find.
That's not bad. It's not bad. It's yeah. No, that's really awesome to hear, man. It sounds like you're definitely loving your life.
Yeah, I hope to take it to other countries eventually and just kind of go visit, but I think I'm just going to be a tourist for those.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
Good stuff.
maybe I'll move. I've looked into moving, but that takes quite a lot of steps. But yeah,
Uh,
it was a great conversation. I definitely appreciate your existence.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much for inviting me here, and yeah, no, thank you very much for having me on.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's Kiwi, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your evening.
You too. Thanks, guys.